Okay, we're going to start chapter 24 from the Green Ember. This one's called A Shame. The three friends came through the door into the round hallway, barely containing their laughter. Once out of the massive hall and out of danger of being hit with muddy clay, the laughter burst out of them like a long-awaited sneeze. Pickett, hobbling through the door, tripped and slid across the room, coming to a halt beside the large wooden barrel in the center of the room. When he looked up, he saw the tip of a spear. Back up, a fierce rabbit and guard scream said, no hint of humor in his expression. Pickett's face, which had only a second before been full of joy, now turned sour. All right, he said, hobbling to his feet with Heather and Emma's help. You don't have to be so harsh. Yes, I do, the guard said. There are traitors among us. Come away, Pickett, Heather said. Then she turned on the guard. I've never seen such rudeness. It's his job, Emma said quietly, with an apologetic look back at the guard. It's his job to be rude, Pickett asked, as they moved back into the long hallway. The wounded, angry look that had slowly begun to evaporate in the laughter of a few moments before was returning. It's his job, Emma said kindly, to protect us all. Well, somehow I think there are bigger threats to Cloud Mountain than a stumbling cripple, Pickett whispered harshly. They paused inside the long corridor. The barrel, Emma said, whispering, it's blast powder. Blast powder? Heather asked. Yes, said Emma. It's there for our defense. The guards may set fire to the blast powder if the mountain's under siege. It would blow up the hallways and the stairway, blocking the way to the village and the great hall. It's really volatile. They think it could possibly explode if the barrel is knocked over. That's why there are 3 guards around it day and night. Plus, some folks don't trust outsiders, especially what, Heather said. Well, some here don't like your uncle very much, and so they don't trust you, but that guard was doing his job. Heather shook her head. She was sorry about the blast powder, but she didn't understand why anyone wouldn't love Uncle Wilfred. She realized for the first time that it might be costing Emma something, perhaps a lot, to be such a good friend to them. Thank you, she said to Emma, smiling gratefully and taking Emma's hands. Pickett, she said, turning to him, we really should apologize to the guard. He was only doing his job. No, was all he said as he hobbled down the hallway toward King Whitson's garden. Pickett, Emma called, you don't know the way. I know the way. I'm not completely helpless. I know that, Pickett, said Emma. Anyway, there's something I want to show you. Forget it, he said bitterly. Don't go, Heather said, but he went on, saying no more. He grunted and grumbled as he disappeared into the long hallway that led back to King's garden. After he was gone, Heather shook her head. He'll be all right, dear Heather, said Emma, putting her arm around her friend. I hope so, Heather said, swallowing a sob. It's like I've lost him too. I've lost my whole family. Well, sister, you've got me now, said Emma, and Pickett'll come around. Trust me, this place has a way of undoing the worst sort of enchantments. Believe me, I should know. What do you mean? Well, when I came here, I was very little, but at some point I got frustrated with my situation. About your parents, Heather asked. Yes, exactly, said Emma. But I had some help. Her eyes moved to the 3rd door in the room. Lord Rake? Well, yes and no, said Emma. He was what I mainly was angry about. I got it into my head that my parents had wanted to keep me, but that he'd somehow stolen me instead of rescuing me. I wondered if they were good rabbits who wished for something else for me. They weren't good? Heather asked. I suppose so, but I don't know, said Emma. But that's not the point. I had no reason to doubt Lord Rake, and he was a good guardian to me. He had saved my life, this much I knew, even if I knew and still know little else. Secrets stay hidden here for a long time. What changed your mind? Heather asked. Emma looked at the 3rd door. Maggie Osage. Who's that? Follow me, Emma said, dragging Heather back into the hallway round and toward the unguarded 3rd door. She put her finger to her lips, and Heather was silent. Emma opened the door, and Heather followed her in. Pickett was getting really good at fuming. As he clapped on his crutches down the long hallway toward King's Garden, he let all the feelings of resentment, angerness, and bitterness wash over him like a waterfall of self-pity. It was actually quite pleasant, but in an ugly way. He was sick and tired of being treated like a useless, pathetic, bawling infant. Of course, when he thought about babies, he remembered Jack's. The sudden surge of sadness only joined the chorus of miseries, all singing the song of how badly he had it and how unfair everything was. First, the humiliating failure at Nick Hollow, where he gave away their position to the wolves, causing them to be chased and nearly killed over and over. Then the unbearable aloofness of Smalls, who deigned to order him around and had the gall to actually pick him up and rescue him at Decker's Landing when he could have easily done it himself. For the moment, Pickett fought away the voice of conscience, giving a different version of events in his mind, and he stubbornly focused on how unjust it had all been. Images of Smalls talking down to him, giving him orders, and rescuing Heather were all ingredients in a steaming, frothing kettle of fury that it was ready to boil over. He came to the doorway leading back to the sunlit King's Garden, teeth gritted. He knocked loudly, but there was no answer. He knocked again, still nothing. So he tried the door himself, but it wouldn't open. He was furious. He just wanted to get to his room and lie down on his bed and try to forget everything. "Open the door," he shouted. There was no reply. Finally, he raised one of his crutches and smashed it against the wooden door. The door held firm, but the crutch shattered, showering the torchlit hallway with splintered shards. The door opened, and in no time at all, Pickett was taken to the ground and a sword was at his throat. Behind him, a spear was leveled at his head. Squinting up, he saw that the spear belonged to the guard who had threatened him beside the blast powder barrel. The guard must have heard the noise and rushed down the corridor. Now Pickett's anger turned to deeper embarrassment. How could things get any worse? He looked through the doorway and saw Smalls looking in at him. "What have you done this time, lad?" There's the end.